Hello, and welcome back to my video series on building out an expedition camper. We are moving on to video number 49 in this build series. And this is the installation of that Motorcraft Adventure Development Skylight, the large one that's going over the bed platform. And in earlier videos, we went ahead and cut open that opening, removed the panel for it, but now it's actually time to install it. And it's not fraught with this issue. There are 3 issues that came about when installing the Skylight. So let's go over those. First of all, these Motorcraft Adventure Development Skylights and also the windows, as I've shown in my other videos, have been packaged very well. They were well wrapped and boxed and came with their trim rings on the inside of them, as well as the window shades, which I've yet to install, but will be installing those shortly. The first issue came out is these struts. You can see here in the upper left, this corner, there's a strut mount to hold up this Skylight that is installed there, and here again in the upper right, but no struts, and those were missing, as well as any other sliding or attachment mechanism to the actual base or window frame. The second issue are the bolts that hold the hinges on for the actual Skylight mechanism. They protrude through the bottom of the frame about 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch, which means that a hole would have to be drilled for a recess for these nuts and bolts to go into the roof, and that was something I was not comfortable doing. So let's talk about what I'm going to do. All right, let me show you a little bit what I'm doing here. The bolts on this Motorcraft Adventure Development Skylight, they're large Skylight, the bolts that hold this hinge on to the actual Skylight frame protrude quite a ways beneath it, as you can see here. Like, that's a whole finger width, or let's just say around 1/2 inch. All right, so they protrude down about 1/2 inch, but of course this is going to be mounted flush to my roof, and I do not want to have to drill holes for these bolts to protrude into, and the bolts plus is all going to be glued down. So if I ever have to remove the Skylight, the top of it, change out a hinge, say this gets broken or something, obviously I can change out the upper portion with these bolts, but let's say the hinge ever goes bad or something, then how am I really ever going to get these undone? I'm probably not. That nut will probably spin inside, the roof hole, that's even if it's glued in. The other challenge of this too is that I have to drill a hole in the roof, and I do not want to penetrate the roof other than really just for solar wires to protrude through, or any other electrical wires like that through a grommet. So you can see there's a little bit of a lip here. Maybe hard to see that, but there's a little bit of a lip underneath here. Watch as this goes, kind of disappears there. See that? So I am going to try to put either a riv nut or something else in through this fiberglass and have it hopefully just protrude just a little bit here, so that I can still get this flush down with this lip and that riv nut embedded within there, and be able to screw in these hinges that hold the top on into those riv nuts instead of bolting down and through and like this. And yes, I probably could go with shorter bolts, but even so, these nuts here, if I just draw kind of a flat angle across the flange here, you can see those nuts even protrude down through. So that's my plan. My plan is to give this a try. So I'm going to take off these hinges, loosen up these bolts, take off these hinges, take the top off from the base, and then I'm going to go ahead and try, see if I can get a riv nut in there, kind of test it before I actually compress it in, to see what this, how strong it's going to be, the length of it, the depth of it, and so forth afterwards. I do have some rivet nuts that are specifically made for fiberglass and also for plastics that may be an appropriate one for here, but I'm going to have to see and try. I do worry a little bit about a riv nut being strong enough on this fiberglass frame here, and I just don't know. I'm going to have to give it a try and see. The nice thing is there won't be a lot of force on this hinge once the struts are installed. Unfortunately, I haven't got those struts. They got shipped without them. I am still waiting for those struts for Motorcraft Adventure Development. But in the meantime, I've got to move forward. I got to get this thing glued on while I've got some time here, while I'm waiting for some cabinet framing to come, and so I can get those installed, and also to finish up some other things on the camper back here. So let's try this out and see how it goes. So I'm sure you're asking, like, Casey, you got enough going on building this big project here, this big camper, working full time, trying to still get some exercise, spend time with friends, get in the outdoors. and get this thing done so I can get on and use it. And you're absolutely right. I absolutely do. And so why am I creating more work for myself? Why not just drill some holes into the roof? One, I don't want to put holes in the roof. You know, if they ever leak, then that water drips into the foam of the roof. I don't like that idea at all. And also, I really want to make sure that everything on this camper, for the most part, is replaceable or repairable. And that's why I don't like having these embedded into the roof of the camper where I can't access them and possibly prevent me from being able to take off these hinges in the future. Should I ever need to take off these hinges in the future, if they ever get rusted, they're really nice stainless steel hinges, they probably won't, but if they ever get rusted, break, get ripped off by a tree branch, who knows what's going to happen, right? So I want to make sure I'm prepared to be able to do a repair here. That's why I'm putting a little bit extra work into this and taking a risk that I'm going to create a better solution than what they have. If I don't, I'll come up with something else and I'll figure that out. But for now, let's give this a try. All right, there we go. Oh, that's heavy. So here's the platform. It's got nice seals. That's all good. It's got a nice trim around here. All right, so let's see what we can do with some rib nuts here. 1.6, 1.4, 0.14 plus 0.16 get us to 0.3. and the thickness, 1/3 of an inch roughly. I went ahead and used a threaded insert into the fiberglass frame of the Skylight, but I need additional thickness and strength, so I added some fiberglass bar to add the additional strength. It's strong, it's lightweight, it doesn't have any thermal expansion, or at least the same thermal expansion properties of the Skylight frame, which is also in fiberglass, as well as the same adhesion properties of the fiberglass frame of the Skylight. It is outdoor rated, it's lightweight, and certainly it's also adding that strength and the thickness I needed. It's also is entirely glued on, so it's incredibly strong. I also could get it in just the right thickness so I could reverse the hinges of the Skylight so that I can go ahead and account for that additional added thickness and still the Skylight stay completely flat and flush and be centered over the Skylight frame. I could also round the edges of this fiberglass bar so there's no sharp edges or anything to poke a toe or to get caught in the wind. And of course, those threaded inserts are not only pressed in so that they're flush with the ceiling or even proud slightly of the ceiling, the bottom of the Skylight frame, but they're also glued in so they will not be able to move. They will stay in there and stay strong to be able to hold this Skylight frame and its hinges on that new platform now. And this allows for the hinges to be able to be removed and the entire Skylight to be able to be changed out should it ever need to be. Of course, the entire Skylight frame is glued onto the roof, and it's a very large flange, probably about almost 4 inches broad. So there's a lot of glue that is holding that Skylight frame on at the top of the roof surface, and then of course also around the perimeter of the inside as well. So it's fully sealed up from both the outside and the inside from any kind of water or air to leak through. I also of course replaced the stainless bolts on the hinges to make sure that they're the correct length so they do not protrude into the roof, and so everything now sits nice and flush and centered and is very strong. So now that the Skylight is installed, this brings up my problem number 3. You put the camera on there. I think it's possible your camera might even get hit. Oh shit, I don't think I'm gonna clear. Yeah, and if you remember back many videos ago, the truck chassis came in about 3.5 inches taller at the frame height than I was told it would actually be. And so a little bit of weight has compressed at about 1/2 inch, but I certainly could use probably another inch or so of compression. But nonetheless, it did alter my calculations of the height that it would fit in my garage. So I had to modify my garage to accommodate it. And of course, with the Skylight, it looks like it will just barely fit. And of course, this was calculated that it would fit with about 1 inch or 2 to spare. And as you can see, that's about all there is, which is just enough to fit solar panels alongside the Skylight and so forth, and still fit it into my garage height, which is a great success. So that's 2 of 3 problems solved today. And now we just need to get some way to method to hold the Skylight up. All right, she made it home. Woo! Yep, she made it home. Oh my God. That was stressful, frightening, scary in every way. But yep, she made it back home. Just flipped around backwards. That's it. Nothing different.
Here she is. See, she's back home, now facing forward. So I can begin most of the work in the back. I won't be able to flip the cab forward, but I can get a lot of work done in the back. That'd be great. So needed. Here we go.
Thank you so much for watching and enjoying my channel and my video series on building on my expedition camper. There's a lot to come as we now start building out the interior. So this is going to get really exciting.